What's up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today's video I wanted to do something a little bit like styled video that I did, way back in the day a lot. If you've been here since then, you probably know what I'm talking about. A tech related video. And today I wanted to revisit one of my favorite iPhones in 2024, and that iPhone would be the very first iPhone SE. Now, you guys, some of you may be probably wondering, why not revisit an older phone or something else? Well, here's the thing. All the stuff in my collection has been sitting just there for months. All of it has been off. So trying to load, something like, say like the older iPhones. I have jailbreaks on there and whatnot, and trying to load all that stuff again would take forever. I'm not in the mood to deal with that right now. And I was like, you know what, how about something else? Like this guy, it did take a while to load and to sync everything again, but it didn't even take that long. On top of that, this phone holds a special place in my heart. Because it's one of my favorite. I used to use this phone for a couple months back then, and I always enjoyed this phone. And I'm like, you know what? It's been a while. This thing's been out of date for a while, but why not go back and revisit it again and show how cool it is at least. And if you technically had to, you could still use this phone on a daily basis. Probably for a day only before maybe it will start to drive you nuts. And I'll explain all that in a little bit. But yeah, let's go ahead and get this video started. A little bit change the pace that I do, because I've been just doing a bunch of gaming videos. So I figured right now, let's take it back to something old school I used to do. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get this video started. Alright, so now that we're here on the desk and everything, we can go ahead and take a look at this phone and revisit it in 2024. So this phone is about 8 years old. It came out in March of 2016. And the reason this thing holds such a special place in my heart is because, okay, my very first iPhone was an iPhone 5. I had that like 8 years ago. And then I got this guy, which pretty much improved upon everything I already had with the iPhone 5. I had Touch ID, I had a better camera, it was faster, and I was running, the latest version of iOS pretty good. But, 14-year-old me was pretty careless, never put on a case on it. Eventually, the thing broke. First the screen, I cracked the screen, then the whole touch screen started responding. And then while I was on vacation in San Antonio, I even broke the rear camera. I don't even know how. I never even dropped it over there. But yeah, I never had a case, not a screen protector. Even when I bought my original SE, it was already defective. The touchscreen did have issues. And probably eventually I would have probably gotten that replaced along with maybe the battery, because the battery wasn't so great either. But, it was a fun time, and I had wished that I actually had taken better care of that phone so I could have used it before I got my A+. I wanted this to be my iPhone before my A+ that I got in 2019. Have I used this past, maybe like a year later on after I stopped using this? Because I used this from about February 2018 to July 2018. Then I had to downgrade to an iPhone 6 from that time up until September 2019. Then I got an iPhone A+. I wish that I had this would have been my main phone up until September 2019 when I had upgraded, because God, that iPhone 6, man, it was not a fun time. And I was watching a lot of iPhone SE videos. I remember specifically in the summer of 2019, I was watching so many, not just the summer, but all of 2019 in general, just watching videos of the iPhone SE. And I was like, man, I miss this phone so much. And so many people were saying that it was so much better than the iPhone 6. So I had to wish that I had kept this phone up until that point at least, because I feel like I would have had a much better iPhone experience for sure. And also, while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and compare it to my iPhone 13 Pro. And you know what? I say this is a pretty fair comparison, because I know the iPhone 13 Pro hasn't been the most modern iPhone for the last 2 years, but you know what? This iPhone is not any different from, the iPhone 15, or, more iPhones have been the same for the past, 5 years since the 11. So I feel like it's a pretty fair comparison, because most of the things that the iPhone 15 has, you can do on the iPhone 13. So let's just go ahead and start off with the basics about, what's so special about this phone to a lot of people, and that's the design and the screen size. This phone is super small. This was Apple's smallest iPhone that they had supported up until iOS 16. And it has, again, the same design as the iPhone 5 and 5S, just kind of improved upon. It has a better camera. It has the same camera as the iPhone 6S. The Touch ID, this thing has Touch ID. And, a lot of us are used to Face ID nowadays. Unless you're using the iPhone SE that Apple sells, then yeah, you probably don't, you don't know Face ID yet, so you don't mind Touch ID and you're still used to this. But yeah, we were used to Touch ID for so long. And, I remember after I got my iPhone 13 Pro, trying to adapt to Face ID wasn't easy. And after a while, I got it. So sometimes, even trying to turn this on, sometimes I just swipe up because I think this thing has gestures like the iPhone 13 does. And let's actually compare the screens while we're at it. So you can actually already see, maybe the camera won't pick it up so much, but you can see the screen difference there alone. This has an LCD screen, this has an OLED screen, and you can tap to wake. You technically can do it with this, but not tapping the screen. This one has raise to wake. I don't have that on any of my phones because sometimes I would just do that and automatically would turn on. I'm like, no, that's not what I asked. I like tapping the screen. You know what I mean? So this has raise to wake. Both of these has raise to wake, but this one you can tap it to wake it up. But as you can see, this is an LCD screen. This is an OLED screen. The colors are much better, and this gets much brighter. The iPhone 13 Pro gets so much more brighter. So apart from that, also the bezels. Look at all the thick bezels. You got the thick bezels here. I have my fan on. What the hell? Sorry about that. You have thicker bezels here. You have all of this, and then the home button again. You have the Touch ID, which is first generation Touch ID. So even that is kind of slow. So even you have to put that for a while. See, that takes a while. Then right here you got Face ID unlocks immediately. So I know some people who still prefer Touch ID today over Face ID. And you know what? That's fine. It's personal preference, obviously. That obviously just depends to you. Now, looking at the software, they're not too far behind. Now, to be fair, I am on the iOS 18 beta right now for my iPhone 13 Pro. I do believe this was the beta 6. And this guy is a couple versions behind. If we look, this one is running iOS 15.8.3, which actually this version of iOS 15 is kind of recent because Apple still is updating all those older devices for security patches. So it's cool at least. On top of that, it's not all too different from what we have now. If we look down here, let me just clear all my notifications. If we look down here, the only difference is you can customize the home screen to add all these widgets. This lock screen here, which is, well, basically notification center, and over here you got the lock screen, both combined, has the same iOS 11 interface that was introduced all the way on iOS 11. And you know what? That's fine. I don't mind it too much, you know. Not having the widgets here isn't honestly like a big problem for me because, again, I could always just look on the actual apps that because like right now I have the Apple Watch battery. This one I do kind of peek at, but you know what, I can just look it down at my watch, and for the weather I can literally just open the app. So not having the widgets down here or up here isn't a big problem at all. Although I do like the convenience of having to be able to have your flashlight on here and then being able to open the camera. It's a whole lot easier. We'll compare the cameras in just a second, but as you can see, the software itself isn't too different. The control center, they actually added this in iOS 13 that any iPhones with the home button now have the same, you know, interface here with the Wi-Fi, your data and the battery and all that. They introduced this in iOS 13. And yeah, so overall it's not too far behind. Now the control center has been redesigned in iOS 18. I have all the controls here. That's how I always had it back then. And you know what? That's fine. You know, they're not too far different. Just a minor different. But it's not anything that's too big. But they now iOS 18 introduced the ability to customize your home screen, so being able to change all the apps colors here. See how they're kind of in a darker color. You can also redesign the home screen if you really want it. You can just do that. You know what Android's had for years, but you know what, I'm used to the other interface anyway, so it's not a big deal for me. And again, the interface is not too different, the lighter apps, but you do have dark mode on this thing, which is nice, so you're not missing out on that in the very least. So any app you do open does have dark mode. This has a 12 megapixel rear sensor that was brought with the iPhone 6s, and pretty much this was the first two iPhones that used 12 megapixels. So the very first variation of 12 megapixels, and this is the last iPhone with the last variation of the 12 megapixels. So 2016 or 2015 camera versus 2021. You can see the difference. I'm sure even the camera's picking up. The colors are a lot more brighter. This thing has optical image stabilization. You can record up to 4K 30 FPS on the iPhone SE, 4K 60 on the iPhone 13, and you got the front camera, which I mean, you could see here the massive difference. So we got a 1.2 megapixel camera, which is the same as the iPhone 5, which was the very first one that brought it. Can only record 720p video. This has a 12 megapixel front camera, which records 4K 60 FPS as well, or it might have been 1080p, I forgot. But as you can see, the color differences are night and day. It's more clear here, less grainy on there, and let's take a look at video. So again, yeah, look at that. And now the back camera's where it's more of a bigger difference, because here we got one camera lens here. So this is pretty much all you're going to get out of this. It's a lot darker, it's very shaky, no optical image stabilization. Here you got 3 cameras. You got a telephoto, you got a wide and ultra wide. So as you can see, the image stabilization is not only a lot better, the colors are more clear. If you want to get a wider shot, you can get ultra wide, a telephoto lens, which basically when you zoom in, it's clear and not pixelated. But for the time, you know, this was a pretty good camera, and even I did use this as my main camera for a while. I don't remember if I recorded it. I think I did videos in 4K at one point using this, and you know what? It was more than good enough for me at the time. Now, obviously, trying to go back to the iPhone SE camera after using the 13 Pro for so long is going to get a bit of adjusting to. But if I was maybe outside, I might do some outdoor tests later on for this video just to see the difference. And technically, what I was talking about earlier about the gestures and whatnot, being so used to that, you could add that with the jailbreak. So technically, you don't lose out on it as long as you know how to jailbreak and you know what you're doing. But again, it's not too different if we look at, like, say, something else like the weather app. You see it's pretty much all the same for the most part. Yeah, we are in a heat zone right now. And pretty much all this stuff, you know, the moon phase is new. That was not there in iOS 15. But you know what? That's okay. I can just look up on Google what the moon phase is. And just look at that. Closing out of apps is so much faster. I missed it there. If we look at that again, see. But I do like that the animation is fast. So if you try to open an app, you know, right away, you know, if you try that, yeah, if you try that, you can get out right away. So I do like that about iOS 15. So it's not like you're losing out on a lot of features, again, that you would have on your iPhones. You still have widgets on the iPhone SE. I think that was introduced in iOS 13, I believe. So yeah, again, you're not missing out on a whole lot. It's just some of the minor differences that are there. On top of that, let's talk about apps. So a lot of the apps can still be updated today. And watch, if you also look at the loading times, that wasn't too bad, not too out of place. So say something like YouTube, for example. You could still use the latest version of YouTube on iOS 15. And I do believe that's the minimum required iOS version. So if we look here, YouTube, you can still use the latest version. And it says, where does it say? Somewhere right here, works on this iPhone, requires iOS 15 or later. So if we open it, you'll pretty much get the whole latest version of YouTube, everything that YouTube has. And I do believe it's the same story with Instagram as well. Yeah, same story with Instagram. So all the nice little things you have there, the reels, the little notes you can add, they're all still there, requires 15.1 or later. And so yeah, now there are a couple things, for example, that cannot be updated to the most modern version. No, not Discord. Discord does work. Doesn't he? This keyboard is so small, it's also hard to get used to typing wise. So if you imagine try typing on this thing. Even here I kind of mess up my typing sometimes, but if you try to type here, it's all cramped and stuff, so it does get a bit annoying. Now something like Disney Plus, for example, you do need iOS 16 to use the most latest version. So the version I already have installed still has the blue logo, and if we look at the current one, it's the green one. But the green one only got updated back in February, so you're not really far behind. I'm pretty sure whatever new content they still had, you'll still be able to see it regardless. Now there's a couple minor things that you probably will notice difference-wise, like the Messages app. If you're on iOS 18, you will see the new redesigned Messages app and all that, being able to react with emojis. You do lose out on that kind of stuff, but again, for the most part, it's still all there for the most part. If you look here, you do have your app library. You can also hide apps here, I do believe. If you click remove, remove from home screen. And it does have the haptic touch as well. This was introduced in iOS 18. The only thing is, because this thing doesn't have any haptic feedback like, you know, newer phones do, you wouldn't really feel it. So you could probably hear it there. Also, the vibration motor on this thing. Let's take a closer listen. So I have to do this every single time with this case because I can't really reach. I do like this about this case that I can do that. Oh, it's kind of coming off, so you know what, let's just remove it for the purpose of this video. So if you look here, listen. You do hear a bit of haptic feedback. when you go like that. And now listen to the iPhone SE. See, it has a strong vibration motor in comparison to newer iPhones. Now that personally I can get used to. It's not anything that will bother me for sure. But I know some people will get bothered by that kind of stuff. The music interface also, for the most part, is pretty much still the same. You have the same layout. You're able to, listen to the lyrics like that. Being able to scroll through all that kind of stuff. But it is worth noting that the speakers on this phone are crap. Because you only have one speaker down here. These little holes here are not speakers. So you have one speaker versus the iPhone 13 Pro. You have 1, 2, 3 speakers. So yeah, this is much louder. But you do get the headphone jack, so anybody who still likes using, headphones, I still have my wired earbuds. It is very nice to have there to listen to, because, these earbuds still sound pretty good, and I'd even argue they sound better than AirPods. As far as that, for the most part, almost everything is still the same. Photos app is redesigned, of course, but other than that, it's pretty much all the same. So if you're still using this phone, I think there probably are a few iPhone SE users, first-gen iPhone SE users still using this today. You're not missing out on a whole lot. Now, you obviously have the much smaller screen with the classic design, but some people really enjoy that, and that's why they haven't really upgraded. Now, memory-wise, so this thing has the A9 chip with 2 GB of RAM. This is the A15, if I'm correct. I lost track, dude, because I don't know. All the iPhones have been the same. This is the A15, I think, and it has about not 2. I think it's 4 GB of RAM, or was it 6 for the Pro models? I don't remember. Apple is so random with this kind of stuff, and they mix it up so it's confusing. But I do know that the SE is the A9. Now, obviously, these performances couldn't be any different. I mean, it's night and day different performance-wise. But basic tasks, you could still run fine. If try something like, let's try loading a YouTube video, for example. Let's load, I don't even know. There's so many random videos out here. You could try this one, and for the most part, loading any video would pretty much be fine. I should probably lower that. I don't want to get copyrighted. But loading a YouTube video, for the most part,
they really make, I'm gonna go to high school the next day.
Still loaded fine, but you can hear how crappy the speakers sound, because again, only one speaker versus this guy that has like 3 speakers. But performance-wise, if you're doing heavier tasks like gaming, you will for sure. Good luck gaming on this phone without it overheating like crazy, because again, under spec. On top of that, the battery life, man. Oh yeah, also worth noting, this iPhone SE only has LTE. iPhone 13 Pro has 5G. Now the battery on this thing, because it's a small phone, it also has a tiny battery. And this specific battery that I have in the phone is, well, you guys can see it there, 77% capacity. It's warning me to get it fixed. And yeah, even just leaving this idle here, it does die after a while, and the battery does go down a lot. So keep that in mind if you are still using this. But basic stuff, runs fine. And you probably, just again, the basics, you won't notice a whole lot of difference. But heavier tasks, loading more things at once, multitasking, trying to do a bunch of other things at once. You can have more things open in the background on this guy because it has more RAM management. This, on the other hand, you cannot have that much things running in the background. If you have a bunch of apps running, they will all just they won't close. They'll still be open in the background, but it'll pretty much just reset like if you're just barely opening the app. So keep that in mind with this iPhone. Overall, I absolutely love that. Such an old design, and the phone feels somewhat modern for the most part, because again, it's not too far behind on iOS updates. It's only on iOS 15, with rolling like 2 versions behind what we have right now. And there isn't a whole lot that's different from the current version of iOS, other than some other minor things you probably will notice day to day. But other than that, for the most part, it's all there. It's all pretty similar to new iPhones and whatnot. You probably will notice some stuff, but for the most part, it's all the same, and it's cool how even now that Apple's updating these with security updates. I think that's pretty cool, because it at least shows that they do want to keep their older devices supported, somewhat, but just keeping them secure. Now, for anyone who still owns this phone, well, I mean, if you don't have the budget, then I guess you don't have to upgrade if you don't want to. I know some people still love this, but if you do need to, absolutely upgrade, man, because this phone is 8 years old, running on 9-year-old hardware. Even though it's not terrible, you probably would want something better. something like an iPhone 13 Pro. This is, as far as I know, the best value iPhone right now, because you got the 120 hertz display, you got 5G, you got good cameras. It's not all too different from what we have from the iPhone 15, and with the new iPhones coming out next month, it's only going to go more down in price. So right now, I think the iPhone 13 Pro is the best, the best phone money can buy in terms of, value wise and things it could do. Again, it's not too far different from the current iPhones that we have now. It's only, again, a 3-year difference, but then again, iPhones haven't changed much in the last 3 years because Apple just barely puts out any updates. So if you do have an iPhone SE first gen and you do want to upgrade, definitely go with the 13 Pro. This is definitely the one I would recommend. But overall, that's my view of the iPhone SE, just kind of revisiting it. Primarily, I just wish this was my primary phone in 2019 up until I got my A+. And I absolutely love the space gray color of the iPhone SE. It's the same as the 5S, but I love how cool it looks. And I like the little black glass thingamabobs here. And again, the Touch ID. I always love the Touch ID. Even if it's older and it is slower than Face ID, it'll still always hold a special place in my heart. That's definitely really cool, that you can still technically kind of use this today. And if you want, you could technically still pair your Apple Watch with it. Now, I don't know what's the newest Apple Watch you could pair with this guy, because I'm sure now there is even a limit. Because it is, keep in mind, this is behind on software updates. So, yeah, overall, that's about everything I have to say about the iPhone SE, revisiting it in 2024. Cool to look at. Obviously, the design and, the screen size is way different from what I'm used to today with the full screen, no bezels, more cameras, Face ID. But, it's not, again, super far different because of the software. I feel like the software is keeping this pretty modern for the most part. And, again, almost every app, almost the newest version of every app requires iOS 15, except for just a minor few ones like Disney Plus for that matter. But other than that, it's all there. It's all mostly the same. You could live off of this for a day if you had to. Maybe the battery might be the only thing that annoys you, but other than that, it's a nice phone to just look back at. Now, would I recommend using this on a daily basis? Probably not. But if you had to, I don't think you would have a terrible time. Now, I do want to do a camera comparison between the two. But again, you guys are seeing the temperatures right now. It's the middle of August right now, so it is a desert out here, man. I could probably do some indoor shots and just kind of get, window shots. I could probably go ahead and do that right now, actually. But they're just warning you guys that my room's a little bit messy just because we got some construction going on in the house and we're moving some things into my room to make space for. So it will be just a little bit messy. So let's go ahead and do that camera comparison. Alright, and here we go with the camera comparison of the iPhone 13 Pro versus the iPhone SE. You can see the difference. Look, when I point at the window, how much light focuses on the window on the SE and the 13 Pro. You have, the light focusing on the window and everything else around it. It's so cool. At least I need to be careful not to do that. The shakiness, you got the stabilization here. You guys are seeing it. The SE is a lot more shaky. Also, more colors out here. See how it's darker, but the iPhone 13 Pro is getting a much better view of the light. And look at the SE, it's kind of going out of focus. Here's my setup here. Nothing different. I did change tripods, and the only reason I changed it is because of that little thing right there at the bottom. Makes it so much easier to grab the cameras out. Here's one of my old cameras that I am starting to use now again, just for the rail finding sakes. Camera corner with all my other cameras, and if we look here, use the, oh god, it's so hard. That's better. See the outdoors, how much better it looks on the iPhone 13 Pro, and the focus shot. See, I tapped to focus on the light on the SE, and this tool shed's new, by the way. And how the light focused right away out in the sky, and went all out away on the tool shed. And here on the 13 Pro, you got light everywhere, so it's cool. So big differences for sure. So first iPhone with the 12 megapixel camera versus the last iPhone with the 12 megapixel camera. Huge differences. After that, the 14 Pro went to 48 megapixels. Alright guys, so that's my take on the iPhone SE first gen in 2024. I know I kind of mumble my words a lot. I always tend to do that, and I don't really script these videos because kind of what's the purpose of it? It's just going to take a long time trying to find the right things to say. I could probably come up with stuff off the back of my head, even if I mumble my words. I have that problem, and I don't ever know if I'm going to get that fixed, because I've had problem stuttering or just kind of mumbling my words for years. Even on my FDLC videos, I just tend to do that. But overall, it's nice to look back at this phone to just remember, you know, it's being one of my favorite iPhones of all time. Yeah, again, love how it has the old iPhone 5 design, but it feels somewhat modern because of the software, so I like that a lot. And yeah, so that's gonna be it for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I know it's a little bit dark in here. If I had that window open, it'd be much darker because this camera would only focus on the light. That I should probably get better lighting in here for sure. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Funny enough, as I just finished recording that video, I just got this in the mail, which is like a little light, which is supposed to be for use for my webcam. It's pretty bright too, man, so it's gonna blind me for sure. But you know what? I was thinking that because I bought this to use for my webcam, but you know what? I think I could use this for my camera as well, because it came with one of these and also came with one that you could mount on a tripod. So, and that tripod there has like more than one mount, also like one on the side over there. I don't know if you guys can see it. So I feel maybe I could use that too, but we'll see.